Good morning, everybody. So my presentation, first I'm representing the company GISAT, so few facts. My presentation will focus on urban. In certain aspects you will see that, and we saw it yesterday as well. I mean, we have a different, let's say, aims, but to a certain level we work on a similar cases. So, for example, what Gerardo was presented, we in one of the use cases we do a similar stuff, but just focusing on the urban. So our aim is urban. So I will just introduce, let's say, the scene or set the scene. So why we are focusing on urban. We didn't start with this topic for the melodies, so it's related also to the sustainability. We already work in this area a lot, and we saw melodies project as a potential, let's say, to expand what we do, to do it in a different way, to do it better. But why we do, let's say, we live in the world that we constantly expanding basically the population in cities. We are now more people live in the cities than in the rural areas, and we are constantly expanding the area of the cities. So that's basically the scene, even in Europe, I mean, where we are not growing in population in a sense of total population, the cities are still growing. So urbanization is basically the big challenge, but at the same time it's seen as a big opportunity globally, because you can solve by the management of urban growth, you can solve a lot of things together. I mean, poverty, energy, transport, all is basically concentrated in urban areas. And that's why, let's say, the cities are also kind of key for sustainable development, which is also reflected in SDGs, where one of the SDGs is related to cities. So basically, more resource-efficient model of growth is needed, and this is seen as the key for solving a lot of economical, ecological, societal problems. So what I just said, that a lot of teams concentrate on the urban areas, it also means that to deal with the urban, it's quite complex, because there is many different aspects which are going together in a place, and you really need a lot of information to really decide properly. Yeah. You need to understand your city potential, and basically there are different strategies how to improve densification, redevelopment, greening, but you need the information for that. And this is the reason, let's say, I just set the scene, and the problem nowadays still is that we discussed yesterday that there is a lot of data already available, but I mean, for cities especially, it's true that there is a lot of data, but they are very much in inconsistent way. It's kind of also the historical way how the information are collected. Sometimes it's city by city different, not just between the countries. So we saw that the open data could be part of the solution for that. And basically the situation now is that there is a lot of data, but because from various reasons which I mentioned here, effectively in a decision process often the data are not used, because it's difficult to crunch from the data the relevant information. And then where our work package basically comes, and that was the starting point of our service focus. So we didn't have an aim, let's say, to deal with all the information, but we were focused on information about the physical part of the urban growth monitoring, We focus on the land resource management, and we focus on the strategic level, because we know that on the city level, cities have quite detailed data for operational everyday work. But what they are lacking is a bit overview for the large area than is the city, and that's exactly the area where I think the harmonization and standardization is needed and it's feasible. And from the Melodies perspective, we were interested to learn more how we can explore the open data, including the linked open data. Because we are EO company, it means also including the Copernicus data flows and all the EO data flows, which we are, let's say, see today. And the second aspects, I mean, these are these technological part in Melodies, was how to, let's say, work in a different environment, to explore the cloud-enabled, let's say, solution. Things which were quite heavily supported by the TerraView. That was also for us a bit new area, and we really see quite a potential there. So what we were looking was to provide the user with spatial temporal patterns of urban forms, how they are evolving, what are the axes of this evolution, integrated with some other data, to go beyond the administrative regions, and provide the harmonized and comparable data. So the aim of the service was not provide kind of, I'm referring this to Douglas Adams, some kind of magic answer, because there is no such a magic answer. I mean, you know that urban planning is still kind of art, but so it's not like a simple math. But we consistently work on the directory to provide kind of platform which enable to be kind of playground for the decision makers to do informed but still creative planning decision. So on the specific level, we work in Melodies on the support of data ingestion, data integration, data to information process, also part of communication of information and the collaboration. So first element which we were working in Melodies was something what we partly already have before the Melodies, but we really invest heavily also within the project to really to consolidate and to be able to plug some new data sources which will come from our understanding from the Melodies. So we developed this UrbanExplorer platform, which now we have, let's say, 3 main modules. The back office where we link the data, the GeoNode where we store the data, and the UrbanExplorer front end where we can explore, or where we allow the user to explore the data. I will not go to the details, but it's maybe for the separate session. That's, let's say, on the very general level, our architecture and the explanation of the different elements. And then now to the use cases which we were working during the Melodies. So we selected, it was kind of evolution, and some of our expectations maybe were too high, but gradually it basically goes to the 2 streams. First was the on-fly use case, where the basic aim was to be able to on-fly query the heterogeneous sources of the data, which the linked open data approach should be a key for doing that. So that was the first use case which we explored. And basically the user story behind is that in all these activities which I mentioned about the urban growth management, you basically work a lot with kind of site selection, site characterization, and evaluation of a different development strategies or options. So the idea was to try to use the linked open data approach for characterization of the sites and for characterization also the limiting factors for the development. So we work with the different data sets, and we try to really populate the query to these heterogeneous sources. So there are some main information sources listed, available as a, let's say, endpoints. So this is example of this use case integration in this UrbanExplorer platform. So the user basically can select the parameters. He can dynamically change to the thresholds, and he will see on fly, that was the idea. So very quickly he can basically explore which kind of areas is available in the city, and he can also see the context. So not just the potential, but also what is actually happening around the city or around this specific site. So that's the second example, that you know the context, so not just the site itself, but what is happening around the site. And the second, I have to be a bit faster. The second case was not on fly, because that's from the very beginning it was clear that it's too ambitious, but it was kind of on-demand use case. So in general, user wants to calculate some more intensive, let's say, information from the data, and how, let's say, the cloud environment or parallelized processing enabled by cloud technologies can still deliver this in some reasonable time, and which also for us as a service provider will allow to do us such things more economically, more effectively, let's say, and also a bit scalability was also a big issue there. So here we again we take a processor which we were working on in a different project, which basically focused on kind of video object tracking approach, but we try to apply it for the EO data. We discussed nowadays that we have quite dense sequence of the data. Still, it's not a video with 20 frames per second, but we can look nowadays on our data archive like on some kind of video. So we try to apply this approach, which we developed internally as a small-scale demonstrator, and we try to apply it for using the cloud technology to be really able to do a massive processing, which by definition this kind of approach needs. So the processor was focused on identifying of changes, urban growth changing in the area, but on a very granular time steps. So basically we are able to say the urban planner not just what changed in some time span, but let's say when within the period, let's say which area was more dynamic, maybe in the beginning of the period, and it's stable at the end. So basically this kind of information, which is quite important. So this is just example of this of the outputs of the processor on example in Prague, and this is finally how it is integrated into the UrbanExplorer platform. So lesson learned, yeah, I mentioned already that maybe some of our expectation was a bit, too high. It was also because we, to be frank, we have a little, or let's say little experience with link open data technologies when we went to the melodies, but it was the reason why we joined. So maybe on-fly queries or really large distributed queries for many link open data sources is still great vision, I think, but we found some challenges there for operational use, mainly from availability of the sources, reliability. But we finally work on some caching approach, so we can live with this, but still we think it will evolve in a future that these barriers will be removed. And the second part, I lost my clock, so I hope I'm not over. Okay, so, and the second part, the cloud computing, it was, yeah, thanks. It just proved that it provides for us really tremendous potential, and to be honest, we see it as the only way to continue to be effective with our services. So let's say for the second one, the time is now, and we see it, and the Melodies project comes in the right time, and everything what we learn and what we are still learning in implementing with TeraDue this processor, we will really leverage in next, let's say, work and next processors we have a plan to implement on the cloud. So we basically internalized some knowledge and capacity from the Melodies, and we really think that it will mean the competitive advantage in our future service development. And just the 39 seconds, so yeah, that's because we talk about the future, let's say, sustainability. So this is more from the point of what are the streams where we want to continue in a near future, because even the development will not stop with the Melodies. And I would just like to mention, because during the project we have a main user, the urban administration of Prague. But during the project, we really start also with one of our, let's say, international customer, and we really try to implement these approaches to this different domain. So that's all. I didn't left any time for for discussion, but I'm happy that I make it here. Thank you very much.